So what we're going to do, House Lasku, Salt Bray, and obviously the Sick Man, we're going to talk about our best and worst signings. We're each going to have one each. We're going to have one each. I'm going to start off with the best. Sorry, no, we're not. We're going to start off with the worst because the best should be left to the end. So I will start. So the worst signing. Who am I picking? This guy has had a great story coming into the NBA. He went on a long trajectory. He's also a subplot of JJ Redick's podcast. He seems like a decent guy, so I've got nothing against him. And he's getting paid. I don't think he should be getting paid. That's Duncan Robinson, 5 years, 19 million for the Heat. Duncan Robinson, in the final year of his deal, he'll be 32 years old. I don't think a man should be signing for 5 years. If I was Pat Riley, I would not be signing him for 5 years. His PER dropped this year from 13.12 to 11.10. And you've got to look at it. He's a fantastic three-point shooter, but he's very one-dimensional. And his physical attributes and his defense is very average. I like the deal in terms of shooting. I think obviously the league is heading that direction. We're talking about mid-ranges. He can space the floor for Bam and Butler. I wouldn't have signed him for that amount of money and that amount of years lengthwise. That's why I think it's one of the worst signings. So we will. Oh, do you want to comment on that? I don't want to get into.
So a little bit harsh. A little bit harsh.
Look, he's fine. Like, he's a shooter. He's going to have up years. He's going to have down years. You want him to improve every year, obviously, but not everyone can be Klay Thompson, yeah? So I think we need to cut him a bit of slack. 5 years, 90 is not enormous, and he's a shooter. So it means at age 32, he's still going to be shooting.
Ed, you're up.
So my signing, which when I saw it, I was a little bit confused as to who this team were bidding against to give this guy the amount of money they did. And that was Jared Allen, a 5-year, $100 million contract. Fair play to him. I think he was a later draft pick. But Cleveland did just draft Mobley. Maybe it's like they've got them playing together or what. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they've got going on. But that's a lot of money to be giving Jared Allen, a $20 million a year player. When I was comparing it to some of the other, that would roughly be in the top 50 contracts in the NBA. Whether that was for last season, but then this season with the new contracts, maybe let's say he's a top 70 player. It feels like a lot of money for Jared Allen, especially when you can get a center. Let's say, if we say Jared Allen, he's like a 7 out of 10 center. You can get a 6 out of 10 center for about 5 or 10 million annually. Maybe part of it is you want to raise your floor instead of raising your ceiling. But I just didn't. It got to the point where Jared Allen became underrated, where it was like, oh shit, Jared Allen is really good. He's really good at protecting the rim. He's great on defense. He doesn't mind getting dunked on, which is something I think is super underrated for centers. I don't mind if you get dunked on. It means you're challenging shots. Like centers who don't get dunked on don't challenge shots, which is why you don't see Vooch in many posters because he doesn't challenge many shots. So then it got to the point where I think he became a little bit too overrated. I think that contract's a bit too much for him, but I'm not sure what you guys think.
I disagree. I really like Jared Allen, even though he's a Texas boy, and that goes against everything in my being.
$20 million a year for Jared Allen.
Yeah, I think he's really good. I think he's a really good player.
Vooch makes 24. That's
exactly.
What I'm gonna say.
Well, anyway, Jared Allen, he's a piece for the future. This Cleveland team needs people who they need winners more so. They need leadership.
If Mobley is what he's supposed to be, you're going to be paying $20 million for a backup center.
Yeah, but Jared Allen is.
Wait, did they draft Oh, they did, didn't they? Oh, that's even worse. I forgot they drafted Mobley.
Listen. Mobley can work on a shot. It'll be fine. Jared Allen's a really good piece. He's a double every year, and I think still the big man is a bit sparse, to be honest with you.
I just want to say this. I prefer Duncan Robinson contract over the Jared Allen contract. Just saying. It seems like we're on opposite ends for this.
Yeah.
I like this. Okay, nice. Okay.
Come on, bro.
I'm about to give you guys what you want to hear from me. I'm about to be super toxic. Because I think the worst signing is actually, and I hate to say this, it's my boy. It's Derek. It's the man on the jersey. 3 years, 43. That's what the Knicks did. Who else is trying to sign Derrick Rose for that amount of money? It's too much money. The man,
I'm not mad at
It's a
that.
lifetime
I'm not mad
achievement
at that.
award. It's a lifetime
Yeah.
achievement award.
Yeah, but the Knicks are
He's
trying to
been
be
through a lot.
good now. If the Knicks were still bad, I'd understand. But they're trying to be good. And yes, he's a great guard. You know,
He's revitalized his career. He's pretty much
but
He was the only
he's
positive from the regular season to the playoffs that translated for the Knicks.
yeah, but he just can't. He can't get you over the hump. Like it's not. You need to reserve the space that you're putting on him on some stars. You need to try and get some stars instead of overpaying Derrick Rose when you don't need to. It's not that I think that he's a bad player or anything. He's just not worth that amount of money. And if I'm the Knicks, you really need to be looking at somewhere else. They're a massive market. Like they could have. You know, obviously they're. The franchise itself has been in shambles, which is why the big three are currently in Brooklyn. If they conducted themselves better, they could be in with the Knicks, because it's a place to be. And I just don't understand why you would go and overpay. And they've done the same thing with Fournier as well. And Derrick Rose is great, but he's at a point.
Fournier wasn't your pick now. That's
exactly what I was going to say. How was Fournier? No, I was waiting to hate on Fournier.
I said Rose. I meant to say Rose. I was getting myself. Rose is great, but he's not at the point of his career where I think he should be earning that much money. I would have loved to see him as a backup on like a really good team.
Do you like him to take the minimum on the Lakers?
I would have loved it if he'd done that, but he did do that in Cleveland. It didn't work out, to be fair.
Oh shit, I completely forgot he was in Cleveland.
Yeah,
Gosh,
exactly.
what a weird time that Cleveland team was.
Yeah.
We need to do a quiz one day of like who those players in that team was. But I was quite intrigued by Knicks' whole offseason. Obviously, following Fournier, I was like, oh, like what was their thinking? And I can't remember who exactly was saying, but what the Knicks maybe positioning themselves to do is giving flexible contracts that allows for trades to happen. So the Fournier contract is quite easy to move off, and because it's a fair figure, and Fournier is a decent player. It's not like it's an Al Horford contract where you have to give up assets to get rid of him. It's definitely not that. It's someone that you can use in trade pieces if a big star does become available. There wasn't anyone really, really big that would have changed something for New York straight away. All the players that were traded were like, they were either a bit too young or a little bit too old to be what New York really, really needed. So they're waiting. As soon as Bradley Beal's like, yep, I want to leave, or Damian Lillard is like, yep, I want to leave, they've got the assets to be able to trade. And I think Derrick Rose is a really good piece to have. He was, as I mentioned, the only player on the Knicks who performed better in the playoffs than he did in the regular season. And watching the Lakers, I was like, shit, the Lakers could have really have done with Derrick Rose, because I remember they were into the idea for trading for Derrick Rose when it was the trade deadline. And if they'd pulled that trigger, who knows what would have happened, because they got knocked out by the team who went to the finals. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I thought you were going to say Fournier was a worse signing than Derrick Rose, which...
Yeah, no, it's just because on like minutes as well, he just can't play that much. Like he can't play more than like 20, low 20s, I would say. Otherwise, it's just too much on him. But